Thinking of this, the old Mrs. Wilson flatly smiled at Dawson and asked, "Mr. Dawson, may I ask, you brought us out and then brought us here again. What are you doing? What are your intentions?" Dawson said calmly, "I came to pick you up on my eldest brother's order, but I don't know exactly what I'm going to do to pick you up for. But the time is urgent. Don't ask so many questions. Get on the plane first. My brother will naturally explain to you everything." When Mrs. Wilson heard this, she nodded immediately and blurted out, "Mr. Dawson, we can't delay your time, let alone your brother's time. We should first get on the plane to Sozu and meet your brother." "Right." Dawson nodded, and then didn't say a word, so he stepped onto the plane. The 4 members of the Wilson family hurriedly followed behind him and boarded the plane. Noah and Harold had already boarded the plane just now, so when they got on the plane, they were not too surprised by the luxurious interior of the plane. But the old Mrs. Wilson and Wendy were dumbfounded. Where did they fly on any private jet? Usually can't bear to go out by plane even first class, let alone a private jet. Therefore, the old Mrs. Wilson is like Grandma Lou who has entered the Grandview Garden. Her eyes are dripping and she doesn't know where to stay. Dawson couldn't look down on this family in his heart. He always felt that sitting in the same plane with such a bunch of old hats was a bit uncomfortable. So he greeted the charming stewardess, poured him a glass of whiskey, and then asked her to give him a steam blindfold. The stewardess in the miniskirt writhed her plump body, waited on Dawson to finish drinking, and waited on him again. He put on his blindfold, put her ears close to his ears, and said, "You have to rest first, the plane is about to take off, call me if you need anything." Harold looked at it from the seat behind. This flight attendant is also too beautiful, and she is just trying to catch up with Dawson. If she could serve him in this way, how great. Thinking of this, he hurriedly said to the flight attendant, "Hello, can you please bring me a glass of wine?" After serving Dawson, the stewardess stood up, pulled her skirt down, and said disdainfully, "I'm sorry, I am Mr. Dawson's personal flight attendant, and I don't serve other people." When Harold heard this, the other party directly refused to say that she was Dawson's private flight attendant, with embarrassment on her face and jealousy in her heart. The rich are indeed rich, not only have private jets, but also private flight attendants. This is really damn envy and hatred. When can he get into this situation? The stewardess ignored them, twisted her waist, and went to the front cabin, while Dawson kept his eyes closed and rested, and he was too lazy to talk to the Wilson family. The Wilson family also felt bored. However, they were looking forward to their situation after arriving in Suzhou. Although they had not heard of Dawson's name before, they had heard of Regnar's name. Regnar is the eldest son of the Wu family and the current heir. It can be said that he is the helm of the Wu family. Don't know what kind of high incense she burned, and she won the favor of the helm of the Wu family. Doesn't it prove that the Wilson family has come back to life? Although the 4 people were speechless all the way, they had their own thoughts. Suzhou is very close to Orus Hill, and the plane can fly there in less than an hour. So soon, the plane began to descend and then landed at Suzhou Airport. After the plane landed, there were still 2 Rolls-Royce waiting here. Dawson took one by himself and the 4 from Wilson family took one. Then the 2 cars drove non-stop towards the Wu's villa. At this time, Regnar was staring at the stock market with a green face. As the Wu family's reputation plummeted yesterday, it became the target of siege and scolding on the internet. Several listed groups under the Wu family dropped their limits as soon as they opened for trading this morning. The market has already panicked. Everyone is desperately selling stocks. So Regnar predicts that after the market opens tomorrow, the limit will continue to fall. Even the day after tomorrow will be the same. The market value of the Wu family must fall by at least 50% first. If he can find an opportunity to revive the reputation of the Wu family, then this stock will still have a chance to rise. If he can't find an opportunity to restore its reputation, then the Wu family may be ruined for good. So the load on his shoulders is so heavy that he almost feels breathless. And the old master is in a coma now, which makes Regnar feel that his heart is lost. Looking at the top families in the country, Most of them were founded by the older generation. Both the Wu family and the Song family were the rich family business that the old master worked hard to produce when he was young. And such families often have an awkward situation. That is, the next generation is not as good as the previous generation. When the old master of the Wu family was young, he was a real hero. He didn't dare to say that he could be ranked in the whole country, but in Orus Hill, he was definitely a remarkable figure. But when he arrived to Regnar, his ability was much worse than the old master. If Regnar is allowed to start from scratch, even if he uses all his strength for feeding, it is impossible to reach 1/10 of the old master's. Regnar is already like this, but his son is worse than him. Take Wu Qi as an example. This little bastard, except for picking up girls, spending money, and knows nothing. After raising him for more than 20 years, he has changed before he can contribute to the family. Become a shit-swallowing beast that eats a bubble of shit every hour. And Roger, even if he was a little bit stronger than his brother Wu Qi, but his strength was limited.